I'd like to talk about a very important issue. I believe that humanity is under a crisis. In fact, humanity is under attack, and it's happening under our very eyes, and no one is doing a single thing about it. What I'm trying to talk about is what's known as geoengineering or chemtrailing of our skies. And this is something that's been happening for well over 10 years or more. And it's not just happening here in Australia, but happening in most places in the world, especially in the Western world. As I sit here right now, my life is at threat because what I'm going to expose is going to be absolutely staggering news that people will be amazed about when they see what I've come up with. I'm going to expose our government and major airlines in a systematically planned or run agenda daily of spraying of our skies. I woke up to this like about 4 years ago. I was naive like everyone else. But since then, my God, once you see what's going on, it's just hard to imagine that this can, be allowed to happen. So I try to talk to people and face ridicule after ridicule after ridicule, and no one wants to know about it. It's not just up to me to speak about this. That's why I'm doing this. I just hope this goes viral and everyone can, believe what I'm saying or what I'm going to show on video and proof, evidence, that we all can start talking about this. So this must end before it's too late. So before I get into what I've investigated for the last 4 months and got damning evidence, I just basically want to just simply go through what I mean by chemtrailing or geoengineering. So what are they spraying? Well, research shows that the main thing they're spraying is aluminium oxide with barium and strontium, but who knows what else they could be spraying. But aluminium seems to be the major constituent. Aluminium is not a natural occurring element. It's found in soils and it's mined, and it's definitely not in our atmosphere. And it's one of the major causes, or probably the major cause, of an ever-increasing Alzheimer's rate that's happening right now. You wonder why it's not found in pots and pans anymore, because it's deadly. You don't want it in your system. But every day we allow it to be rained. We take a bath in it every day. When I say bath, it's above our heads, and we take it in every day, and we do nothing about it. There are 3 schools of thought of why they're doing this. And the first one is probably the most common, and it's probably the one, they don't talk about this. For 4 years I've tried to speak to members of parliament, environmental, government environmental bodies, EPA, whatever, and the media won't go near it. Everyone has in the whole system has virtually been told to shut up about it. Some of the replies I've got are just absolutely ridiculous, but there's not a single person or government body that wants to talk about this, and you can bet your life when something like this is kept a secret, that 99.99% it is not for our benefit. So if you ever hear about it, the only time you'll hear about it is it's used for geoengineering or global warming, the climate change crap that's going on now. It's like cooling of the planet. In effect, that the spraying of the aluminium into the atmosphere, it actually reflects the sun. That's the sort of just the basic philosophy behind it, which in effect will cool the planet. Why we want to cool the planet is beyond me, but why we want to muck around with Mother Nature is beyond me. It's the last thing we want to do, but without our, us knowing about it, the control system or the establishment, whatever you want to call it, they're doing this without our knowledge. So governments, they're not talking about it like I said, but you might hear now and then that there is the geoengineering going on. You can read about it. They're probably saying that it's just something in its initial stages, but like I said, this has been going on for quite a number of years now, well over 10, 15 years. So if this was all that they were doing, wouldn't it be just simple for them to just openly tell us about this, and so we all know about it? Or if that was the only thing they were doing, why isn't aluminium just the only chemical element that they're spraying from the whatever, and not all these other ones? So there must be more to it, obviously. The other one, it's a little bit more involved, a lot more involved. It's to do with a program called HAARP, HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It's been going on since the early 1980s. Basically, it's a military sort of a program, which there's places around the world, but the main one is in Alaska. And what I talk about, you can do your own research on this. It's basically a massive area, how many acres of like antennas. And what they do with these antennas, it's, like I said, it's a military program, but can be used for anything. And virtually no one's aware of what's going on, but believe me, it's there. What they basically do is they can transmit high energy waves at a very low frequency. By doing that, they can guide these waves to the ionosphere and bounce them off anywhere on the earth that they want, and they create whatever. They can create earthquakes, would you believe? But they can virtually do anything they like. It's so scary. It's beyond imagination. But that's and how that works with chemtrailing, obviously, is if they can virtually spray our skies with aluminium, which is like an electricity wire, it's going to be more conductive. So they can obviously, do the HAARP agenda more thoroughly and easier. So that's why you see, weird weather patterns recently. That's why you see, I don't know, you might read about it, thousands of birds dying at once, or fish dying at once, all weird sort of things happening all of a sudden. It might have a lot to do with this, HAARP agenda and the chemtrailing. But the third school of thought is the one I sort of think is the main agenda, and that's a nefarious agenda where, well, I won't go into it too deeply, but where the control system has a depopulation agenda, where you can just go look at the Geiger guidestones. It will tell you that we virtually have to reduce this planet's population by 90%. And that's their agenda, basically. And you can see how they've been pushing this through with things like fluoridisation of the water system in many parts of the world, especially here in Australia. The fact that fluoride is a toxic waste and used in rat killer and pesticides, it's absolutely no good for our bodies, but they won't tell you that. The other way they're doing it is through GMO foods now, through Codex Alimentarius, controlling of the food, and that's what this is all about, I believe. If you control the food, you control the population. So, what else? Yeah, well, using these two, now using the spraying of our skies, aluminium, like I said, is the basic thing that they're spraying. It is absolutely no good, for the body, for the immune system. Once it gets into your blood, it can do untold damage. And like I said, Alzheimer's disease, major reason for Alzheimer's increasing is because of the aluminium getting into the brain. Because of this spraying, it's not direct. It could be direct or directly, affect us. We could actually breathe it straight in, which, my God, it's virtually a death sentence. Or, like I said, you can take it through the drinking water or the food you eat. So, by spraying chemicals such as aluminium, they're virtually making our oceans and our earth sterile. And the soil alkalinity is going to be severely, affected. And when that happens, the germination of seeds, it just won't be like it used to be, and things won't grow like it used to. So in effect, aluminium in our soil, increases, I think, the alkalinity, and it won't allow us to grow food as we have over the years, or through history. And it's no coincidence that a company called Monsanto have actually created a seed which is aluminium resistant. So the net effect will be that to grow anything, we'll have to virtually look to Monsanto and nowhere else. It'll be fully controlled by Monsanto, which I don't want to go into them, but if you want to do some research, they're pretty evil. Let's just leave it at that. So, well, basically that's about it. The things that have increased since the spraying is, like I said, Alzheimer's, asthma, obviously cancer. There's so many other things that people could be affected by. Our respiratory system, it's all about the immune system. And there's another disease, Morgellons disease, which you might want to look up. It's when I say they're spraying aluminium, there's a huge possibility that they're actually spraying fibres, which, it's crazy if that sort of stuff's happening. And like I said, Morgellons disease, it is increasing, and what it is, it's a sort of fibres getting into your skin, and it creates an awful itch, a terrible itch, and it's like a worm's getting into your body, and that is, research has shown, has been increasing a lot lately. So I'll leave it at that, and I just want to basically tell you what research I've done. But just look in the sky and compare the sky as it was like 10, 20 years ago. It's nothing like it used to be. Nothing. The clouds are, wispy, and it's just, the clouds aren't normal. We still see the normal clouds, but we'll see this other stuff, wispy, and it doesn't even look like cloud. It's fake cloud. And that's what it is. It's not even a real cloud. I mean, go back years when I was a kid, used to see sign writing, little planes do sign writing all the time, and used to think that was great. You know, it doesn't happen anymore. I can't remember the last time I've seen that, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is they do not want us looking up in the sky. They do not want us looking at the sky, because people will soon awake to this. And there's ways they do this. There's lots of tricks that they use. They use subliminals. What I mean by subliminals, hard word to say, in movies, in TV commercials, in especially children's like animations and kids shows. When they show the sky in the background, you'll always see a chemtrail. I mean, you can see them in commercials all the time. I don't watch much TV, but you'll always see that the chemtrail, a straight line in the back. You'll see it a lot with, just in normal things they show on TV, like, sporting events. But the idea of the subliminals in the background is for kids to, when they see these things in the background, it just comes to be as normal. Because if they didn't sort of see these at a younger age, in all the things they see, when they're playing outside at school with their kids or outside after school, and they see the actual plane spraying, they'll go, "Oh my God, look at this," and they'll run in and say, "Mummy, Mummy, Daddy, look at this." They don't want that to happen. So that's what it's about, all mind manipulation. So basically, it's, like I said, sign writing. I don't want you to look up in the sky. And I'll tell you now, but in research we've done that they don't spray often on weekends, on Saturdays especially, because a lot of people are outside playing golf and what have you, obviously not inside working. That's a reason why they don't try to spray much on weekends. Oh, they'll spray when it's cloudy, all right, don't worry about that. But when it's a clear day, which that's another thing, you might want to notice that the skies aren't as clear anymore. Even when you see a blue sky, it's not even truly blue. There's got this haze everywhere, and people might think that's like pollution. Oh, I hate to tell you what it really is. It's what they've been spraying on us. And other things that, you might probably, think it's a coincidence, but you used to go to the airport. You used to have viewing areas where you could stand outside and watch your planes, they're going in and out and docking, whatever. They closed them down many years ago, well before 9/11 and all this terrorism crap came about. You wonder why. No one ever gave us a reason. Well, maybe a reason was when they started this, they don't want you or anyone to see what's attached to the wingspan of commercial planes that are flying, that are spraying this stuff. Yeah, it makes sense to me. And another thing, you might clean your car. You don't have to clean your car. Have your car parked outside for a day or two, whatever, and find that all of a sudden you go to drive your car the next day and it's got all this crappy stuff all over it, and you think, "Oh, geez, what's that?" Like dirt, or it's like powdery dirt. What is it? And you don't say, "Oh, bugger, just clean my car." Well, the fact is, this happened about a year ago, I think. I noticed that all over my car, silver car, and I knew straight away what it was. It was something that was sprayed on us. And it just so happened that night, my daughter came around. She lives a few kilometres away. She came around to show me a new car she bought, a white car. And I had a look at it, and guess what? It had all over it as well. The same stuff. So, you wonder where that came from. And a few friends of mine have actually gathered on their trees, a sort of spider webbery stuff wrapped around the branches. Who knows what that is, but it's definitely not from a spider. So, before I actually go straight into what I've done and what I've found, the one thing I want to clear up straight away before I say anything is the term they use to sort of debunk anyone that wants to bring this up is the term contrails. It's just a myth. Like they use the word conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist to demonise people who want to know the truth, or the use of the word fluoride telling us that it's good for our teeth, are just a myth. But the term contrails, okay, fair enough, contrails are real. They form, they're ice particles that form at very high altitudes, at very, very cold temperatures, around like minus 59 degrees. This is about as high as it gets, or as cool as it gets. Fair enough, I'll accept that. But the fact is, normal clouds are like 10,000 feet high. And when I talk about the spraying of chemtrails, they're done at well over 30,000 feet, between usually 34 to 39,000 feet. And at that height, you cannot possibly even see the plane. It's like with the naked eye from the ground. It's like a pinprick. You will not even be able to see it unless there was a trail. And you would definitely not be able to see any contrail if there was a contrail, because you just can't see water vapour from 8 miles away, especially when you can't even see the plane that's doing it. So the fact that they talk about contrails is a lot of baloney, and I prove that in all my videos. And that's the one thing I have to stress straight away, because there's a lot of shots of planes which aren't like continuous long streaks of massive chemtrails. It's like about 8 to 10 body plane lengths, but it's continuous, and they sort of disappear, but it's a continuous trail. Trust me, it's a chemtrail. When you focus it in, it is a massive trail, and what we don't see past the 10 lengths of trail, who knows what there is, but it's probably not, from 8 miles away, it becomes invisible, whereas the guts of it you can see. And I'll use that example because if contrails were real, you'd see every single plane leaving a trail. Every single plane that flies at a height. But you don't. And I put it to anyone out there that can show me a plane that flies it shows and it has a contrail. Because till this day I have never seen a contrail. And if anyone can show me that, well, I'll beg to differ. They will never ever show me a plane with a contrail. What they're seeing is a plane pouring out chemtrails, no matter the size. Because the fact, in my videos, we have a certain plane that sprays. One day it might spray a massive spray, which is a massive, takes up virtually the whole sky. The next day it will just have a smaller spray. The next day a thinner spray. The next day we'll have no spray. The next day it will start spraying. I've got video of it actually stopping while it's spraying. So it's all inconsistent. If it was contrails, it would be consistent all the time. And that is not what we are finding. So we'll just get that contrail thing out of our heads. Because, okay, now I'm going to expose what I believe to be a highly orchestrated system between, obviously, a government and major airlines. I'm going to just basically talk about what's happening over Melbourne, because that's where I am, that's where I can actually film. But going back years, I always thought that what was being sprayed, because you'd see it a lot, was from a military plane, because it was that high up you could not see it. And you'd think, God, it's, that high up, and it has to be a military plane. It seems to be on flight paths that we don't even know existed. And there was one major one we saw, it was coming all the time from below Victoria, from like below Warrnambool, coming from the Bass Strait, coming up straight up Warrnambool, Geelong, over Melbourne towards like Sydney way. Couldn't work out what it was, but 4 months ago I started this investigation with the help of a friend who lives in Geelong, and we were put onto a flight tracking system on the internet which could track any plane that flies in the sky virtually all over the world, but focused on, around Australia and Melbourne. So we noticed a plane that sprayed chemtrails, and lo and behold, it turned out to be a Qantas flight. Qantas flight flying from Sydney to Johannesburg, which is virtually in a straight lateral, but it just so happens to go down to Melbourne. Just above Melbourne. When I say Melbourne, our investigation showed that the northern suburbs are sprayed the most and across the west. At times when the plane goes down east, it will never spray. The people in the east, well, thank your lucky stars, because you're not getting sprayed like anything like the northern suburbs and the west. So we found this plane, the Qantas QF63, to be a constant daily. It flies daily, and it sprays over Melbourne and towards Geelong, Warrnambool way. And then its brother in crime comes the other way, the QF64, does exactly the same. And over the months we found different intensities of both, like I said, and the QF64, if we're going to look at my videos that I'm putting up, it is spraying stuff that is so scary. It's like, when I talk about fibres and stuff, that's what it looks like when you see the chemtrail. It is something like you have never seen before. So cut it down. We thought Qantas was behind this big time. And things that will stagger you, the Sydney to Johannesburg flight would go straight across to Adelaide. Adelaide, in fact, how they do this, that's what I should be telling. How they do this is, if you want to hit a place like Melbourne, you need a flight that's going to go flying over the top at over 30,000 feet. A direct flight that's going to just go straight over the top. It's virtually in its flight path. So you can take the Sydney to Johannesburg flight. It's not in its flight path, but they managed to go down and spray over us. When I say, okay, I'm talking about Melbourne, but Adelaide's probably in the worst position of all, because it has flights going from Sydney to Perth, just domestic Qantas flights that could go straight over it. It has flights coming in from Singapore, from Malaysia, which can go straight through Adelaide, go straight past Melbourne, and go straight to Christchurch or Auckland, and the other way around. It's in a terrible position as far as spraying goes. Sydney's the same, with flights from Brisbane to Melbourne or to Tasmania, and also with flights going from New Zealand across to Singapore. Melbourne, it isn't as bad because it needs a plane like I said, the Sydney to Johannesburg. But what we found after the Qantas flight is we found there's Air New Zealand, there's Air Asia, and there is Singapore Airlines, who are involved as well. And the way they do it is when they come across, like I say, down through Adelaide, straight across to New Zealand and the other way, and they target Melbourne as well. That's how they do it. At a height, which is usually above clouds, and that's the other thing they do. Whenever it's cloudy, they will spray big time because we cannot see a thing. They will use the clouds to their benefit. Like I said, on weekends, this is the one that's going to stagger you. The QF63, which at times used to go straight across to Adelaide, to Perth, the quickest route, but more often than not it's coming down to Melbourne. But would you believe, it actually goes to Tasmania as well, and not only just to Tasmania, it targets Launceston, and the big one, it targets Hobart. And I've got video proof. I've made a call to someone in Hobart, and I tracked it. It was right at Hobart, and they went out and looked, and it was spraying big time. So they target major cities, and I've got all these flights proof. I've gone back through history. Some of them go to Sydney or Melbourne, and even Hobart, or some even go to Brisbane. There's no in-betweens. If they're coming from New Zealand or coming from Singapore or Asia, they target Adelaide, then bang, Melbourne, Sydney. I'm not sure about Brisbane, but there's no in-betweens. And there's no way a flight, for instance, an ANZ 175 from Auckland to, say, Perth, should be going to Sydney, then heading off to Perth, or even the more natural, flight would probably be just above Melbourne. But another thing we found just recently, it targets King Island, one of our precious little islands where we've got one of the best cheese and beef industries in the world. It is being targeted and being sprayed big time by a New Zealand flight. It either goes straight through the guts of King Island, never either side. Like I said, the other one goes straight to Hobart, then turns away. This flight also has been known to go straight to Hobart. As soon as it hits Hobart, bang, it starts going up. Goes straight to Sydney, bang, it starts going the other way. It hits the major cities, and there is one reason and one reason only for that, because it sprays chemtrails. Another things we found that the flight QF63, it'll go straight down to Canberra, pinpoints Canberra, another heavily hit city, then turns slightly away and makes its way to Melbourne. When the QF63 goes to Hobart, it goes straight down the east coast, doesn't go either side, it hits all the major towns on the east coast of Australia. I mean, it's staggering what I've found. Like I said, governments don't want to know people to know about this, but word has to spread out, and I'm doing my best. If it means risking my life, so be it. I don't want to die tomorrow, but we got to spread the word, people. We have to spread the word. I mean, I'm going to put all my stuff on YouTube. You'll be able to see everything. I'll detail it all. I can go on and on about other things that it's doing. Like I said, there's different intensities that they spray. You don't know whether it's going to be big or small. We've highlighted the flights that we know of. And the other thing, you might wake up, if you're in Melbourne or whatever, you might wake up early in the morning. You'll see the sky covered in crap. You wonder, what the hell? Where does that come from? Well, we've noted at least 3 flights that do their job in the early hours of the morning while we're asleep, would you believe? Probably the only flight that's flying in the sky. Some about 1:30, others about 4 a.m. Either going from New Zealand up to Singapore or Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, coming back down. It's all specially orchestrated. And when I say that, it's all done in tandem, because if one plane targets Melbourne and another one that normally goes to Melbourne, it'll be told to go to Sydney or to Hobart or whatever. And it's all carefully done. And I'll just leave it at that. I had to bring this out because the mainstream media doesn't want to know about it. Like I said, I've made a number of calls to politicians and written letters. I've had no replies about this. There's a fantastic documentary that you can all get your hands on. It's called What in the World Are They Spraying? What in the World Are They Spraying? It was only made about a year ago by a great American called Edward G. Griffin, who I've spoken to. He's the one that put us onto this plane spotting thing with the internet and the tracking system. A wonderful man. What more can I say? I mean, like I said, people behind it, it's staggering how they're keeping this quiet. It's obviously the people down the lower levels and the Qantas people, whoever knows that the pilots are in on it. I mean, whoever's pushing the buttons, they probably think it's for a good cause, for whatever, cooling the planet. But up the top, that's where the evil is, whoever that may be. And that's what we have to fix. It's a crisis. Time will tell whether I'm right or not, but I know deep down in my heart what I'm saying is true. And for those shills who are behind this agenda, whether they know, aware of this or not, I mean, you need to wake up. You need to friggin' wake up and smell the coffee. Because, when the trolls are done with you, you'll just be, like anyone else. They couldn't give a damn about you. You'll just be execution like the rest of humanity. So, please people, do your research. Chemtrail, it's all over the internet, all over it. I mean, what I've shown over Melbourne, it's nothing compared to what you see, vision of what's going on in places like America and England, where the whole sky is covered in crisscrosses. But my basic thing of why I've done this is because people here, no one's sure who's actually doing this. You know, the majority of people are thinking it's all done by military, but it's staggering to find out our major airline is behind this with other major airlines. And if the government was fair dinkum and they're worried about the environment, if it was just basically about our environment, you know, talk about this carbon tax and pollution and stuff, if they cared so much about that, and if all they were spraying was a bit of carbon, whatever, surely they would put a halt to having foreign airlines like Singapore and Air New Zealand targeting major cities and spraying this stuff on us, if it wasn't, you know, poisonous, whatever, if it was just a pollution. Surely that's the basic thing they could do. They're just turning a blind eye to it, which means they must be behind it as well. I thank everyone for listening to me, and I just hope we can put an end to this. Thank you.